What has horns, long fangs and can fly? A vampire. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'm a detective, which should be exciting, I know, but at least for me it was pretty boring. I was always sent to deal with the small-scale kind of stuff, you know, break-ins, shoplifters, with the occasional somewhat serious kind of investigation like a hit and run, but it was overall pretty simple stuff, that is with the exception of one incident. We were called up to investigate near an old Indian reservation. When we got to the scene it was pretty fucking gruesome. There was a body found in the middle of the woods by a park ranger. His chest had been torn open and all his internals removed, bone and all. Not even a drop of blood was left in the now gaping hole of a man. With some investigation as well as an autopsy, it was chalked up to nothing more than a particularly brutal bear attack. As we were taking care of the body while in the woods though, I felt the air suddenly turn cold, and the feeling of someone or something watching us from the distance. A week later I returned to the scene. Something about it being just a bear attack didn't sit with me right. Sure, there are the large animals with a pretty mean bite, but to completely remove everything within someone's body is not any normal behavior of any kind of animal. As I pondered this, I was found by an old Native American man. He scared the crap out of me when he approached from out of nowhere. "Don't think it was really a bear, do you, son?" he asked. "Well, no, I just can't wrap my mind around what it could have been," I responded. The man let out a large puff of smoke from his old wooden pipe before looking back at me. "You ever heard of the Wendigo?" he asked. My long pause and completely oblivious face answered his question as he slowly walked himself to an old wooden log and taking a seat. "You see, it's an old Algonquian legend. It's said that if one is to resort to cannibalism, they become the beast." I let out a small chuckle as I listened to the tall tale. "Well, sir, if there were any cannibals living in these woods, I'm sure we would have known all about it." He nodded and let out another cloud of smoke before removing his pipe. No, not from any time recently. Once before the Revolutionary War there was quite a savage tribe of natives that lived on this land. The story goes that their chief had manifested into the Wendigo when he ate a man who came to their land in search of trade, he said before slowly picking himself up off the log, wishing me goodbye, and leaving. Now I know it sounds crazy, but while I mostly thought the man was just trying to scare me, there was a small part of me that believed the story. I just could bring myself to believe that a bear, or even a person for that matter, could just completely scoop a man's internals clean without showing any signs of struggle or other wounds on the victim. I decided I'd do a little investigating on my own, and sure enough, there was a pretty good amount of Wendigo sightings within that old reservation. There was even a museum that claimed to have a genuine Wendigo's horn. I don't know why I was so invested with this Wendigo legend, but there was something about it that made me believe it was real, so I decided to do something pretty stupid. I returned to the woods that night, nothing but a flashlight and my sidearm. It was pretty boring, to be quite honest, and about an hour and a half in I were beginning to question my sanity for thinking something so ridiculous. Then I heard it. A loud deep groan from deep in the woods, nothing a human could make. I slowly approached it and came across a putrid smell of rotting meat and dead flies. I turned on my flashlight and what I saw made me puke. A pile of corpses, some human, some not, all of which had similar wounds to the man we had found a week prior. Some of them were even missing person cases we had received a long time ago. Then I heard that groan again. It was closer, and coming from behind me. I quickly spun around and pointed both my gun and light in front of me, and I saw it, the Wendigo. A tall, extremely skinny creature, some of its bones even poked through the skin, and its rib cage was almost completely visible. Long sharp claws and the head of a rotting deer and deep glowing yellow eyes. I was frozen in fear till it let out a loud ear-piercing screech and began to charge me. I fired 2 rounds at it, which temporarily halted the creature, giving me enough time to run past it, make a break out of the woods, but it got up fast and began to resume chasing me even faster. I fired blindly at it until my clip was empty, luckily hitting it enough times to stall it enough for my escape. As I stumbled out of the woods and back onto the regular park grounds, I slowly stood up and looked back at it. It wouldn't cross the tree lines. I saw its glowing yellow eyes stare me down before slowly turning around and returning to its home in the deep dark woods. Once it disappeared from my sight, I quickly dropped to my knees and began to vomit for a solid 5 minutes. The next morning I reported the bodies I had found in the woods. I left out my run-in with the creature, however. Hell, it's not like anyone would have believed me even if I did tell them what I saw. When they found the bodies, they came to the conclusion that they were now looking for a serial killer, even found a guy who was wanted for committing some pretty similar to the victims in the woods. I even got a promotion out all of it. The only downside is now no matter where I go, or how far, if there is any kind of forest or woods nearby, I can see it. I can see its glowing yellow eyes peering through the tree lines. It's been almost a year and a half since I've seen that creature, and still the Wendigo watches.